Have you ever wondered what happens when the person everyone ignores becomes the person everyone celebrates? In a small African village, there lived a young girl who had nothing, no wealth, no title, no powerful family name. People looked at her simple life and decided they already knew her future. They laughed at her clothes. They mocked her struggles. They believed she would remain poor forever. But what they did not know was this. Destiny often has greatness in places people never think to look. And sometimes the person everyone overlooks becomes the very person everyone remembers. This is the story of Adaeze, the girl who carried a water pot every morning, but carried a heart full of kindness, patience, and strength. Long ago, in the beautiful village of Umoik, where the red earth carried the memories of generations, there lived a young woman named Adaeze. Her name meant daughter of a king. But unfortunately, the village did not see excellence when they looked at her. They saw poverty. They saw an old rapper. They saw a poor widow's daughter. Every morning, before the village woke up, Adaeze was already walking. She walked to the river. She carried water. She prepared the fire. She helped her mother. Her days were filled with responsibilities most people her age never understood. But despite her struggles, Adaeze remained peaceful. She did not complain. She did not hate those who had more than her. She simply continued doing what she had to do because she knew something important. A difficult beginning does not mean a hopeless ending. But in every community, there are people who judge others by what they see. And Adaeze knew those people well. One morning, while walking through the village market with her clay pot on her head, two young women saw her. Their names were Chidema and Ngozi. They wore beautiful clothes. They carried themselves like people who believed they were better than everyone else. When they saw Adaeze, they laughed. Chidema looked at her and said, "Adaeze, you are still carrying water every morning? Have your hands not become tired from carrying poverty?" The people around them laughed. Ngozi looked at Adaeze's old wrapper and added, "I have seen better clothes used for cleaning animals." The laughter grew louder, but Adaeze did not respond. She simply adjusted the pot in her head and continued walking. Because she understood something. Not every insult deserves an answer. Sometimes silence is the strongest reply. She walked away. But even the strongest people feel pain. When she reached a quiet place, she placed the pot down and looked at her hands. Those hands had worked for years. Those hands had carried her family. Those hands had never given up. A tear almost fell, but she wiped it away, picked up the pot, and kept walking. When Adaeze returned home, her mother, Mama Adaeze, was making clay pots. Her hands were old from years of hard work, but her hope was still alive. As soon as she saw her daughter's face, she knew. A mother always knows when her child had been hurt. "Did they say something again?" her mother asked. Adaeze smiled gently. "Mama, they always say something, but I always keep quiet. But I always keep walking." Her mother looked at her quietly. For 23 years, she had prayed for this child. The village saw a poor girl, but a mother saw a future. She believed the name she gave her daughter was not a mistake. Adaeze was not created to remain unnoticed forever. One day, the world will finally see what she had always seen. And that day was coming. 3 days later, something happened in the village that nobody expected. It was the festival of the New Yam. The village was filled with music, dancing, and celebration. But this year was different. The king of Umoik was coming. For 7 years, the people had not seen him pass through the village. Everyone wanted to be noticed. The wealthy families prepared their daughters. They wore their finest clothes. They decorated themselves with beautiful jewelry. Every mother hoped the king would choose her daughter. And every young woman dreamed of becoming part of the palace. Chidema and Ngozi were among those standing at the front. They made sure they were impossible to ignore. But while everyone was trying to be seen, Adaeze was simply going about her day. She carried her clay pot. She walked quietly. She had no idea that her life was about to change forever. Then the royal drum began to sound. The king's procession entered the village. Horses moved proudly through the road. The royal guards followed. The people bowed as the king passed. The king looked around carefully. He was not searching for the richest girl. He was not looking for the most beautiful dress. He was looking for something deeper. Then suddenly, the procession stopped. Everyone became silent. The king had seen someone. Not Chidema, not Ngozi, not the daughters of the wealthy families. He was looking at Adaeze. A girl standing at the edge of the crowd. A girl wearing faded wrapper. A girl holding a clay pot. A girl who was not trying to impress anyone. Adaeze noticed the silence and looked up. Her eyes met the king's. For a moment, everything stopped. The music, the talking, the movement. They simply looked at each other. Adaeze looked away, because in her world, you did not stare at a king. She lifted her pot and continued walking. The entire village walked in shock. The girl they ignored had just caught the attention of the king. That evening, inside the palace, the king sat with his chief advisor, Chief Obi. The chief presented a list of young women from the most powerful families. My king, Chief Obi said, these families have strong histories, great wealth, and respected names. Any of these daughters will bring honor to the palace. The king listened quietly. Then he asked, who is this girl carrying water at the festival? Chief Obi was surprised. The girl with the clay pot? Yes, the king replied. The one in the old wrapper. Chief Obi hesitated. My king, that is Adaeze. She is the daughter of a widow. Her family has no wealth, no land, and no title. The king looked at him. Find out who she is, not what she owns. Who she truly is. Chief Obi was confused. He had served many kings, but he had never seen a king interested in a person's character before their possession. The king sent his messengers into the village. His mission was simple. Discover the truth about Adaeze. The messenger spoke to the villagers. He spoke to the market women. They said, Adaeze is always the first to help and the last to leave. He spoke to the children. They said, she tells us stories and never becomes angry with us. He spoke to an old blind man who sat near the village road. The old man said, I know her footsteps. She is the only person who stops to describe the world around me. The messenger continued searching. He found a woman whose child had been sick. The woman said, whenever anyone else left, Adaeze stayed. She helped me through the night, and she never asked for anything. The messenger returned to the palace, but this time, he was not carrying information about wealth. He was carrying something much more valuable. A story of kindness, a story of humility, a story of a woman with a beautiful heart. The king read the report carefully. Then he smiled, because he had finally found what he was searching for. The next morning, a royal messenger arrived at Adaeze's home. The entire village gathered. Nobody understood why the palace was there. Then the messenger announced, the king has chosen. The crowd went silent. The king had chosen Adaeze, the poor girl, the water carrier, the daughter of the widow. Everyone was shocked. Chidema could not believe it. Her? Why her? Over all of us? But an old woman standing nearby simply smiled. The king saw what many people refused to see. He saw her heart. Inside the small family compound, Mama Adaeze held the royal cloth given to her daughter. Her hands trembled, not from fear, but because 23 years of prayers had finally been answered. She looked at her daughter. Adaeze, come outside. Adaeze stepped forward. She saw the royal clothes. She saw the messenger. She understood. The life she knew was about to change. The palace women came to prepare Adaeze. They brought beautiful fabrics, jewelry, royal decorations. They dressed her like a queen. But one palace woman told her, the king did not choose you because of these things. We are not creating your beauty. We are only revealing what was already there. Adaeze looked at herself in the mirror. For the first time, she saw herself differently. Not as a poor girl from the village, but as someone valuable, someone worthy. Mama Adaeze looked at her daughter. She smiled. I told you, my daughter, your name was never a mistake. You were always meant for greatness. The day finally arrived. The same village that once laughed at Adaeze now gathered to watch her live. But something was different. She walked on the same red earth road, the same road where people once mocked her, the same road where she carried water every morning. But this time, she was not carrying a clay pot. She was wearing royal clothing. Beautiful fabrics covered her. Jewelry decorated her. She walked with confidence. But deep inside, she was still the same Adaeze. The girl who worked hard. The girl who remained kind. The girl who never allowed bitterness to change her heart. The villagers watched quietly. Some were amazed. Some were ashamed. Some finally understood that they had judged someone they never fully knew. Chidinma stood among the crowd. She watched Adaeze pass. For the first time, she had no insult, no laughter, no cruel words, only silence. Because sometimes the greatest lesson is watching someone succeed after you believe they would fail. As Adaeze passed the old blind man near the village road, he smiled. He could not see her clothes. He could not see her crown, but he knew her footsteps. I knew those feet, he said. Walk well, child. Walk well. Adaeze stopped briefly and held his hand, because greatness has not changed her heart. When Adaeze entered the palace, everything felt unfamiliar. The large hall, the royal decorations, the people watching her. She had never been surrounded by such beauty. She did not know the palace rules. She did not know the perfect words to say. So she did what she always did. She remained honest. She remained herself. The king stood before her. He looked at her quietly. Then he said, I noticed something about you the day I saw you. Everyone stopped when my procession passed. Everyone wanted to be seen, but you continued walking. Adaeze looked at him and answered, My king, I had water to deliver. For a moment, the palace became silent. Then the king smiled, a rare smile, a smile that those around him rarely saw. That is exactly why I chose you, he said. Before the royal announcement was completed, Adaeze stepped forward. The entire palace became silent. My king, she said, before anything is recorded, may I ask one thing? The king nodded. Adaeze looked towards her mother. My mother has spent her whole life working. She gave me everything she had. She sacrificed for me. Whatever happens to me, I only ask that she never suffers again. The palace became quiet. Everyone expected Adaeze to ask for riches, gold, power, a higher position. But her first thought was her mother. The king looked at her with admiration. Then he turned to his chief advisor. Let it be known today. The woman who raised this daughter will be honored. She will have a home in the palace. She will never lack again. This is not just a gift. This is my respect for the woman who raised a heart like this. Mama Adaeze stood quietly. She covered her face. Tears flowed. Not tears of sadness, but tears of a prayer answered after many years. Adaeze eventually became queen, but she never forgot where she came from. She used her position to help others. She supported the poor. She encouraged young people. She reminded everyone that a person's beginning does not determine their ending. Even Chidinma changed. The girl who once laughed at Adaeze began to understand that pride without kindness is empty. The old blind man continued telling Adaeze's story for the rest of his life. He always said, I never saw her crown. I never saw her royal clothes, but I knew her heart. The story of Adaeze teaches us something important. Never judge a person by their current situation. A seed does not look at a tree when it is planted. A diamond does not look valuable before it is discovered. And a person's greatness is not always visible at the beginning. True character is revealed when nobody is watching. Keep being kind. Keep walking. Keep moving forward. Because the same world that ignores you today may celebrate you tomorrow. This has been another story from the heart of Africa, where every journey carries a lesson and every ending leaves a message. If Adaeze's story inspired you, share this story with someone who needs a reminder that their current situation is not their final destination. Subscribe to the channel for more African stories filled with wisdom, hope, and transformation. And tell us in the comments, have you ever been underestimated by people who did not see your true value? Until the next story, keep believing, keep growing, and keep working towards your destiny.